And happy Monday, my friends. And Jim Stevens here, again, shooting from my hypnosis clinic in town here. And we are doing the readings of The Science of Getting Rich from this is the trilogy book by Wallace Wattles, where he's got the science of getting rich and the science of being well and the science of being great. All three great books. Get this book from Amazon or really step up for another like $2 and get the all nine works of Wallace's works. You'll be glad you did. All right, so we're starting into chapter 3 and summarizing real briefly the science of getting rich. Wallace Wattles is laying down some pretty solid groundwork for where this go. In fact, bulletproof groundwork. But here's what he's saying at first. The urge to get rich and the right to get rich are all natural and good. And all good things are gifts from, if you want to call it, God, universe, nature, whatever. It doesn't, his point is, it doesn't glorify God to keep you poor when you want to be rich. Okay? And again, summarizing, getting rich is not having to do with environment because there's a lot of people in the same environment, some rich, some not. It's not location. There can be several businesses in the same block. One guy is getting rich, the others aren't. Why? It's not about talent. It's not about anything except doing things in a certain way. But now we're going to continue. Chapter 3 is opportunity monopolized. Well, that's, hey, maybe there are monopolies, right? Well, let's see. No man is kept poor because opportunity has been taken away from him, because other people have monopolized the wealth and have put a fence around it. Okay. You may be shut off from engaging in a business in a certain line, but there are other channels open to you. Keeping in mind it's you getting rich, not necessarily you getting rich in some specific vehicle or opportunity or company or business. It's about first you getting rich. All right, so anyway, carrying on. Probably it would be hard for you to get control of any of the great railroad systems. That field is pretty well monopolized. But the electric railway business is still in its infancy. Now, keeping in mind, Wallace wrote this back in the very early 1900s, like 1904, 5, something like that. He died in 1912, I think. Anyway, but the electric railway business is still in its infancy and offers plenty of scope for enterprise. And it will be but a very few years until traffic and transportation through the air will become a great industry, and in all its branches will give employment to hundreds of thousands and perhaps millions of people. Boy, I mean, was he a guy ahead of his time? Why not turn your attention to the development of aerial transportation instead of competing with J.J. Hill and the others for a chance in the steam railway world? You're going to see competition becomes a big issue. Don't compete. How does that work? Well, we'll get to it. It is quite true that if you are a workman in the employ of the Steel Trust, you have very little chance of becoming the owner of the plant in which you work. But it is also true that if you will commence to act in a certain way, you can soon leave the employ of the Steel Trust. You can buy a farm of from 10 to 40 acres and engage in business as a producer of foodstuffs. There is a great opportunity at this time for men who will live upon small tracts of land and cultivate the same intensively. Such men will certainly get rich. You may say that it is impossible for you to get the land, but I am going to prove to you that it is not impossible, and that you can certainly get a farm if you will go to work in a certain way. You'll notice the certain way theme goes all the way through this thing. And he's right. At different periods, the tide of opportunity sets in different directions according to the needs of the whole and the particular stage of social evolution which has been reached. At present, in America, it is setting toward agriculture and the allied industries and professions. Today, opportunity is open before the factory worker in his line. It is open before the businessman who supplies the farmer more than before the one who supplies the factory worker, and before the professional man who waits upon the farmer more than before the one who serves the working class. There is abundance of opportunity for the man who will go with the tide instead of trying to swim against it. So the factory workers, either as individuals or as a class, are not deprived of opportunity. The workers are not being kept down by their masters. They are not being ground by the trusts and combinations of capital. As a class, they are where they are because they do not do things in a certain way. If the workers of America chose to do so, they could follow the example of their brothers in Belgium and other countries and establish great department stores and cooperative industries. They could elect men of their own class to office and pass laws favoring the development of such cooperative industries. And in a few years, they could take peaceable possession of the industrial field. My friends, was he ahead of his time or what? And what he's saying is, watch, do things in a certain way, which part of that certain way is watching the tide and watching the trends. This guy was way ahead of his time because a lot of what he said here has happened and the tide is still turning. But he is also saying there is no lack of opportunity if you're looking where opportunity is, and you don't have to compete for it. And he's also saying there are areas where opportunity is pretty well saturated. Okay, don't pick that one. And he's saying, don't be stuck working in a job and just plodding along. All right, so that's the beginning of chapter 3. Is opportunity monopolized? No, not as a whole. It is not. One more paragraph here or two, and then we'll wrap this one up. The working class may become the master class whenever they will begin to do things in a certain way. The law of wealth is the same for them as it is for all others. This they must learn, and they will remain where they are as long as they continue to do as they do. The individual worker, however, is not held down by the ignorance or the mental slothfulness of his class. He can follow the tide of opportunity to riches, and this book will tell him how. All right, so we're going to wrap that one up, but let me just tell you this. Anybody listening to this video, watching this video, and if you engage in this book, you're being told, wake up your mind, because you can do things in a certain way that will take you out of whatever circumstances you need to get out of. There's opportunities everywhere, and of course we offer one. Again, the theme being, become president of your own life. How do you do that? Start thinking differently. You will then show up to your life differently. Okay, we've got a little long, but we had the little recap of up till nowness in the beginning. Tomorrow, we continue with, is opportunity monopolized? See you then.